Do you know the fourth largest capacity of dying for a 15-year-old to a 29-year-old is suicide? Fourth cause of death for a 15-year-old to a 29-year-old is suicide. Did you know that girls, adolescent girls, they attempt suicide more than boys? However, the boys are more successful. Did you know? What we're talking about today is we're talking about mental health with adolescents and teens. And it's become a very big topic as of late, but most of the mental health issues going on with that demographic, the adolescent demographic, teen demographic, going from 12 to 19, are not really being discovered. We're going to talk about it today. We're going to get into it today. We're going to identify the hows and the whys today. And I'm on my way to a destination that's given me a lot of time to talk to you. So we're going to have a conversation today and get into this. Okay? We're gonna bounce around probably a whole lot of stuff if you guys start talking back to me. But if you don't, and I just be the talking head, we're going to talk a little about. So, teenage mobile counseling. Teenage mobile counseling is a new corporation here in Canada. It has associates all over North America that are essentially positioning themselves as a community resource to talk to teenagers within the family home, to be a mediator between the adolescent or teenager and the parents. Let me explain something to you, man. Doesn't matter what type of parent you are. Doesn't matter how great a parent or how bad a parent. And this is a shocking stat. Statistically, your parenting is not going to, whether it's good or bad, is not necessarily an antecedent or something that will stop your child from having issues, mental health issues, depression, what happens in respect to bullying, low self-esteem, and all these other things that develop into actually true psychosis and true mental health issues. It really has less to do with your parenting and more to do with the environment around your child. And that environment is also inclusive of social media, which we know is worldwide, right? You can be in a social media environment that isn't jurisdictionally around you, but because you're in that particular environment, so you can be bullied. Nurse Shay, how are you? Good to see you. How are you? Good to see everybody out here today. So this concept now, I want to talk to some people. Like, for example, I have a demographic in my own life of that adolescent to young adult, right? So remember, the fourth largest cause of death from the age 15 to 29 is suicide, right? So you've got 29-year-olds who have probably unresolved issues, a lot of them. This could be things that are recent, but potentially unresolved issues coming all the way from them being teenagers. And they haven't dealt with it, right? Let me take off my funky hat, because y'all won't take me seriously when I'm a funky hat on. Take my funky hat off. And they haven't dealt with it. And these underlying issues are developing into psychosis later on. And if they don't have the right coping mechanisms, or if they have the wrong coping mechanism, these things spiral very, very badly, right? Where a 29-year-old thinks they have to take their life. One of the other things too that is just it's significant, and it's come to me now. It wasn't part of what I was going to say, but I think it's very significant, is the underlying anxiety that our kids have today because of violence against them by individuals who are supposed to protect them. So I want you to do this. I want you to go on Google. I went on Google and put in black teenagers and start to scroll. Tell me what you see. What comes up in my Google feed, plethora, pages and pages of black kids killed by white police officers or by white people or by adults. Just numerous murders of black teenagers. I was just trying to look for an image. But when I put black teenagers in, I was shocked to find out that Google basically spit out to me hundreds of black teenagers, black young people who were murdered either by police or by white citizens for various reasons, or attempted murder of them, things that are current and things that are historical. Trayvon Martin was one of the first things that came up. Okay, Mike Brown and all these things, like they just start to come up. It's incredible. Mugshots, yeah. Mugshots of our dead teenagers. Black teenagers. Google's keeping a repository of all the dead ones first. I had to search and search and search to find images, and I didn't find it. Somebody had to find it for me, of healthy, alive black kids on Google. So imagine the psychosis that and potential psychosis and anxiety and concern, whether it be conscious or subconscious, whether it be something that is manifesting or something that is underlying in their everyday thought of their relative safety, right? And why I think it's worse now than it probably could have been in the 40s, 50s, or 60s is because social media allows you to see a different kid killed almost every day. So for most of our young people who are on social media, every single day they potentially are hearing about the death of someone their age by either by police, gun violence, etc., etc. This is participating in a growing mental health awareness of what's happening with our young people. There's another reason. The massive sense of entitlement. All right, let's get into this bag here. There is a massive sense of entitlement even by low income teenagers. They have a massive sense of entitlement of what they should have, what they can have, what they should be able to access. Come on, ladies and gentlemen. Where did this come from that 14, 15, 16-year-olds want wigs? Wigs. They want to wear Rihanna wigs. They want different colored hair. My 10, 11-year-old wants nails. She wants her nails done. Her mama getting her nails done. Her sister's getting her nails done. She wants her nails done, her hands and her feet. She wants her hair done professionally, not by mom. She wants her hair done professionally, minimum twice a month. Okay? That's just little girls. The little boys, they want $200 sneakers to play sports, and they're sitting on the bench and not even good. They won't even go outside and practice the daggone sport. To be on the team, they want $200 sneakers. We're not talking about, kids who are dealing with sports that have expensive apparel like hockey or something like this. I'm talking about kids who are just playing basketball in a house league basketball. I'm not talking about kids doing anything extravagant. Okay? These kids have a very high sense of entitlement based on current status. Yes, it's very hard on the psyche of children. Thank you very much, Nurse Shay. The psyche of children is being affected by a number of things. Children are now being also told that they can choose their own sexuality. A child who is yet to identify the fullness of his born sexuality is being advised, don't let that stop you. Don't let the fact that you are 8, 9 years old, you know nothing about yourself, you don't even have pubic hair, you don't have the capacity to actually even inseminate a woman, your ovaries potentially are not working, you can't have a baby, but guess what you could do? You could actually get gender reassignment. This is too much of a burden that you being born a woman or a man or a boy or a girl is too much of a burden for you. We can go ahead and redo that for you and turn you into a little boy or a little girl. Imagine that this is something that young people are dealing with today. Imagine. Peer pressure, thank you. Peer pressure is something that we've always dealt with. All of us have dealt with peer pressure. So you throw peer pressure on there, that's regular teenage stuff. That's the stuff we thought that we'd be handling. Peer pressure, you don't have to do what everybody else is doing. But then again, kids are very impressionable. We find the mob mentality is very significant these days. I was more of a lone wolf. I had 1 or 2 friends. We used to do some stuff together, but I was extremely independent. These kids are not like that. These kids have the mob mentality. They move as a team. I went to Afrofest with my 2 daughters, and my older daughter, 16-year-old, she brought a friend with her, and that girl's about 18. Her name's Honey. So Honey, Praise, Jericho, we all go down together, and Honey comes back with about 15 little girls. 15 little 17, 18, 16-year-old girls, all wigs, weave, right? Makeup, nails done, right? Looking like grown women, but you can see they're little girls. When we were that age, nah, man, these little girls look like little girls. Right? You still knew they're little girls, and we still know now too. But they're trying their very best to look grown. Very best. What's the pressure there? Where you've got these little grown girls, right? They're trying to be adults too quickly. Anyway, the mixture is what we're talking about here, is that there needs to be more resources for parents, because this whole concept of raising your kids and requiring a village has never been more pronounced than now. It's extremely important that that there are community resources that people can reach out to. That and this is the craziest thing. If you're not dealing with youth all the time, if you're not dealing with you trust me, you're out of the loop in respect to what's really happening out there. And kids in grade 7 and 8, I remember kids in grade 7 and 8, I was shocked at the time to understand kids in grade 7 and 8 are not just, of course, potentially engaged in sexual activity, but at the time, this was when I've been an educator for many years, so I got to break it down into decades. But so around 2003, the number one, I would say, educational group that was selling narcotics were junior high kids in junior high. And just to give you some background, here at that time, the Bloods and the Crips, from about 2000 to 2006, the Bloods and the Crips had come up to Toronto. They come to all of our. They were here, and they were trying to establish themselves, and they were trying to create. They were starting to sell franchises. That's how they were referring to it. And so we found out in the high schools and the elementary schools, the Bloods and the Crips were selling franchises. They were teaching these kids how to extort. They were teaching them what to sell, how to sell, right? Steal stuff out of your parents' medicine cabinet, steal their prescription drugs. You know, they weren't telling them to go buy weed and go buy coke. No. Go steal all those prescription drugs, break into houses, get some prescription drugs, and start selling those $10 a pill. And they were doing that out here, right? And so we had very impressionable junior high, grade 7, grade 8 kids basically creating these syndicates with the Bloods and the Crips. At the time, I was running a group home or foster home, and one of the kids in my house was getting extorted, but I didn't know right away. So this is how I found out about it. It's wintertime, and I see this kid who, for back to school, I was the one buying all of the stuff. I knew he had a coat, I knew he had a hat, I knew he had gloves, I knew he had boots. And this kid's going to school on a very cold day with no coat on. And he's a chubby little kid, so I'm like, maybe these little chubby kids don't respond to the cold. He's a little chubby kid. I was like, all right, maybe it's... And I see him again. I'm like, bro, it's colder than yesterday. Where's your coat? Oh, I don't need my coat. I don't need my coat. And it put my antenna up. I said, whatever. He ran out to school again. Day 3, no coat. Like, nah. Where's your coat? I don't need my coat. No, I want to see your coat. Where's your coat? Where's your coat? I think I might have left it at school for 3 days. No. What's going on? Then one of the other kids said, this kid took his coat and told him he has to pay to get his coat back. Okay. You should have seen the kid that took his coat. The kid that took his coat was smaller than him. And so this is how we started getting into that these kids were affiliated, they're associated. And it became a major scenario in our area. The schools had to basically change their policies. One strike, you're out, because they knew they had a population of kids that were very, very egregious to the area. Just to throw this in there too, and it probably mixes with all of it. The reason that this grouping of kids dropped in that area at that time is because massive gentrification was going on in some of the urban areas in other places in the city. And so what had happened was the government were voluntarily moving lower income urban families, single mother families mostly, but sometimes it wasn't, to suburban areas. So you had these rough kids coming out of real downtown hood areas. You transplant them into the suburbs with these little suburb kids, and they were running roughshod. It was like releasing wolves amongst lambs. They were taking PlayStations, Xboxes, clothes, money, jewelry. They were it was crazy. And so the school finds this out and administratively starts to expel all these kids. Once they found out the kid was doing something, expelled. And not just from the school, they expelled them from the school district, forced the kid out of the area, and ultimately, within a very short period of time, it cleaned up the situation, because essentially the parents were like, well, he's still got to go to school. He's in grade 8, he's in grade 9. He's got to go to school, so they had to move him. And they had to put him, or they had to move, and they had to put him somewhere else. So, but essentially what was going on at this time was you had this incredible turbulence going on amongst young people, a lot of pressure, the peer pressure thing, a lot of strain going on, a lot of anxiety, a lot of fear, a lot of bullying, and we had no idea about it. No idea about it. And this is the last part, which is why this organization, Teenage Mobile Counseling, is so important. At a period of time, I was getting so busy that I had to bring in respite workers just so I could go do my thing, and that the kids that we were dealing with in the group homes or foster homes still had coverage. And so essentially, these people crazy. Essentially, when the respite workers came in, the respite workers got back to me saying, hey, and normally the greatest respite workers are girls, because the ladies, they get, when we're dealing with boys especially, they get more out of them. Like, do you know what's going on with these guys? And the stories started coming up. Oh, this is happening and that's happening. I'm like, really? I had no idea. Remember, too, I'm supposed to be the one running this program, but still, because the kids were living with me, they weren't confiding in me. And so this is where this idea has come from. That many times when somebody from outside of the household steps into the household, they don't only have a fresh perspective. For some reason, the teenager feels that they are an outlet to share vital information, personal information, and you get more out of them. Message held for review. Who's holding the message for review? Keep the ghetto kids in the ghetto. Leave our suburbs alone. Rodney Vespucci. Rodney, you're a savage, bro. But you're a savage. Listen, the reason that some of these kids were in that neighborhood is purely choice, because Toronto is a very interesting place that economically, are we stuck behind this thing? Economically, you can essentially live anywhere here. You can figure it out anywhere. There's government support to help you to be anywhere. So you'd be surprised that the kids who are affluent actually have a lot more problems. Okay, a lot more problems. We had an area here, very affluent area, where there was a lot of new Vietnamese individuals, and this is now, I know this because of policing. So you have a Vietnamese population in this area, and you had different things going on with the Vietnamese. The Vietnamese at that time were selling ecstasy. They were the guys. They had all the ecstasy. The Indians in the suburbs, the East Indians, they had all of the transportation businesses. And so the Vietnamese and the Indians had a relationship. The Indians would bring in the ecstasy from the States via their trucks, and of course the Vietnamese are paying them for it. But every now and then a shipment would go awry, and I, at one time, unbeknownst to that Vietnamese lady, I don't know how much time she's serving right now, but she basically hired me. Oh geez, I gotta get off this street. She basically hired me to kill an Indian guy who had ripped her off. So, because of course all black people are murderers, so she felt very comfortable meeting me and deciding that I was the right guy for that job. Yeah, that didn't go well for her. That didn't go very well for her. So again, the reason I'm bringing this up is because it's not just about the ghetto, right? You have serious crime issues in a lot of areas that are affluent too, and those kids are as bad as anyone else, right? But at this particular time, the gentrification forced a lot of very tough urban kids into another area, a suburban area, and they were feasting on these kids, and it was bad. Let's get into some mental health conversations. Many times when you look at the data, and most of this data, I would urge you to go take a look at the World Health Organization. The World Health Organization breaks this stuff down. It's got all my information basically comes from them. But just to let you know, like most of the things I'm saying comes from them. So one in seven, which is 14% of youth between the ages of, try to remember this one, 15 and 19 suffer from a serious mental health issue that many times goes undetected. That's 1 in 7, right? So if you got 30 kids in your class, approximately 5 of them are dealing with a serious mental health issue, right? Something that's major that requires assistance, right? See what's going on. See Rodney still talking crazy? Nope, Rodney, that's what he said before. But so 1 in 7, that's a lot. That's 14%. That's a lot. That's, every class of 30, you've got 5 kids in there who are dealing with stuff that's serious that you don't realize, right? And maybe they're identified. Maybe those kids are identified, but a lot of times they're not. And so what do you do when you have a scenario like that, and you have a resource organization like Teenage Mobile Counseling? You would reach out to the parents. You'd say, listen, you have an outside resource that is in a position to maybe come into the school, come into your home, and have communication with these kids. We're trying to develop something that has multiple facets. So we have a nurse, for example, and the nurse, we call them FTAs, okay, family teenage advocates. But our nurse advocate, she specializes in substance abuse. So when you have these kids now who are dealing with substances, they're not going to tell their mom or their teacher that, yeah, I'm doing coke or I'm doing acid. I'm not going to tell them that, right? You're not going to know. You're going to have a kid with a serious substance abuse issue, and you have no idea that this kid is potentially in a position to kill himself with a substance, simply because they're not going to talk to you. And this is why, again, somebody asked me today, what modality of counseling? And I said most of our people are very, very trained CYWs, because they're not going to tell the doctor they're on these drugs either most of the time. They're not going to tell a psychologist or a psychiatrist they're on these drugs. They're not going to tell their family doctor that they're on these drugs. These folks are not just counselors, but they're getting you this information that you need. There's a resource that many of us are missing out on, and it is that strong CYW, that strong child youth worker who can get in there. They know the kid, they know the language, they know the culture. They've seen so many kids, they'd be able to quickly be able to assess. It's important. And a lot of you are dealing with kids in your own homes who you can't reach, right? All of us. I don't know a parent that sits there and says, oh, my kid talks to me about everything. I mean, that's great. And even if that kid is talking to you about everything is 80%. There's still 20% of stuff that they're absolutely not talking to you about, right? I'm sorry. I don't care how you feel, the relationship you have with that child. You're just saying, oh, my child's they're so respectful. And the more respectful they are, the more that they know what not to share. I'll put it that way. And as open as you are, it's wonderful, but still, many times kids are holding things back. And let's talk about this open thing for a minute. I had a good friend of mine. I'd love to make this left. These guys would move the car. Car ain't moving. I had a great friend of mine And she felt, she was in the church. She was a deaconess in the church. She had her sons in the church. And she said, she declared this. That's what she declared. I bought my teenager condoms. He's a boy. I don't want him getting anybody pregnant. And I rather, if he's going to do it out there, he might as well come and do it in here. What do you guys say about that? Right? Single mom, dealing with, he was a little handsome little boy too. He was a good looking kid, I remember. Good ladies man. In grade 9, he's a ladies man. In grade 8, he's a ladies man. Good looking kid. She said, I'm going to give him condoms. And you know what? If he's going to do something out there, he's going to practice safe sex. Because these are kids. You can't stop them. At the time, she's like, Pastor, you can't stop them. And I'm going to let him come in the house and do that stuff under my roof. So I know what's going on. Okay. What do you think happened? Tell me what you think happened. How to use Narcan as a start. I don't know what Narcan is. At least teaching them how to use. You mean a condom? I don't know. I don't know what Narcan is. Well, she became a grandmother very, very quickly. Let's put it that way. Because using a condom or giving a child a condom is not giving a boy the discipline to use a condom. Giving a boy a condom is not giving a boy the discipline to use a condom. So many of you are thinking, oh, I just gave him a condom. He might not know how to put it on. He might not be waiting for that condom. Everybody knows condoms don't feel like the real thing. And she was a grandparent quicker. She was before that boy was 16, he was a father. Before he was 16, he was a daddy. Because what should have been taboo, what should have been use restraint, what should have been discipline, what should have been sacred, became okay all the time, right? This is the question I got. Now, if he started at 14, 15, 16 having sex, he's a father. What kind of potential sexual addictions could he have? Could he be a sexual addict, a sex addict? If he starts at that age, one of the greatest things to guarantee poverty is teenagers having babies. You can pretty much guarantee poverty, especially for the baby. You can pretty much guarantee that that's generational poverty. Your dad's in school, your mom's in school. They're not building any wealth. The grandparents are paying for everything. So now that wealth is being split up even more. There's no new money coming. So that's a pretty quick way to guarantee poverty. Right? He started to have more sex. He had more access to sex because mom gave him a hotel. So these kind of things, parents sometimes need to be parented. They be saying, whoa, come on now, slow down. I know that you think you're doing a good thing, but let me give you an example of why that's not. Because I'm seeing more households than you. You're dealing with yours, I'm dealing with 10. And that's not a good idea. You shouldn't do that. Cut that off. The parents need to be counseled too. So part of this is not just also counseling the teenager. It's sitting down with the parents and saying, I see what you're doing, your method, your parenting method. Can I give you some pointers? Can I give you some advice? Can I give you some counsel? Because many times, let me tell you something. Just because you can push one out don't mean that you know what you're doing. There is no degree in parenting, but there should be. There should be a course. Not everybody should be allowed. It's true. Not everybody should be allowed to simply just go out there and push out a child. Because the mistakes that are being made, my goodness. I know of a family. Wink, wink. The young boy was bringing home his little girlfriend. All right? The daddy said, I see the future of that situation already, right? You can tell, and you might know the daddy. You listening to him, the daddy of the boy. I said to my son, just so I can take all the critique out of it, or the crypticness out of it. First of all, you're too young to be having sex. I want to let you know that. Oh, Dad, I'm not doing anything. Okay. I want to let you know that little girl's too young to be having sex. And if you get her pregnant, guess what? That's statutory rape. And they know you did it because the evidence is in her belly. His eyes open big like saucers. At the time, I told the mother, I said, hey, that boy better come live with me because this ain't going to work. What you doing over there, that don't make no sense. He didn't want to come live with me. She didn't want him to come live with me. Bam. 2 kids later. 2 kids later. Listen, didn't stop there. What else did it affect? It didn't affect his ability to get a high school diploma. It took him a long time. What else did it affect? Anger problem. Got a serious anger problem. Wanted to fight everybody. So, okay, I'm going to manage that. I'm going to put him in boxing. Let him start doing some boxing, right? Let him box. Let him get that anger out because he want to fight everybody. Well, what else did that affect? Now he's got a new one. Now he got a new girl. Wanted a new girl in his life. Okay. Wanted to marry the new girl. But he still didn't have his life together. Daddy says, don't marry the new girl. You made a mistake with the old girl. He ain't listening to me. Because mama's leading him down the path of, well, you know, if you want to do that, you should go ahead and do that, and da-da-da-da-da. I said to him, it was the crescendo moment. Ladies and gentlemen, he went and married that new girl. That marriage lasted about 4 months. But it was a crescendo moment. He's still mad at me. He's still mad at me like I did something. I messed up his life. He's still mad at me. That boy mad at me all the time, right? It's okay. But this is the crescendo moment. I told him all the advice. You should not get married. This is not a good idea. You're going to regret doing this. And I said, I have a question for you. Who's buying that young lady her wedding ring? Mom's going to buy it. Mom's going to buy it. His mother bought his wife her wedding ring. I believe that wedding ring probably ain't even paid off yet. The marriage was over quicker than the wedding ring could have got paid off for, right? And this is another issue. Like these are these issues because with these broken homes where you have a dad on one side, mother on another side, mother's not listening to the father, father's not listening to the mother, you need another resource coming in there because these kids are falling through the cracks. That's what's happening. You got this new dialogue going on that, oh, you don't need to co-parent, you can parallel parent. Have you heard of that one? Parallel parenting, right? Parallel parenting is not co-parenting. So co-parenting is where we talk and we make decisions together and whatnot. Parallel parenting is not that because we can't talk. We have no level of communication. So I parent my way, you parent your way, and we hope that the parenting is the same, even though we're not talking. It's foolishness, right? Some idiot psychiatrist made that term up, gave that to women who don't want to have conversations with the fathers of their children. Said, you don't have to co-parent, you can parallel parent. Right? Nonsense. And this is why, again, you need these community resources because when the family unit breaks up, common sense goes out the window half the time. You understand what I'm saying? So again, teenage mobile counseling. You need a community resource to reach out to this demographic of kids. Generation Z, we don't know what the heck's going on with them. They wild. They out here wild. We don't know what's going on with them. How many of you are talking to kids that you don't even, they don't understand you, you don't understand them? I'm telling you, from about 25 and down, right now, 25 and down, these kids are different. They're extremely different. They're going through stuff that is extremely, and don't tell me about, well, they got to be raised in the church. I'm talking about them too. They raised up in the church. Well, and then the other part of it, which is hard, right? What are you showing them? What are you showing them that is causing them trauma? Some of you guys ain't getting this part, because a lot of these kids are in trauma because You messed them up. You didn't do it on purpose. You could have simply divorced their father. You could have simply said something negative about their mother. You could have had too many women. You could have had too many men. Whatever. You could have been the one that traumatized them. You don't even know. You could have been, and then you could have said no too many times. You could have said yes too many times. You don't know. And yes, these kids are very secretive. Very secretive. And another knucklehead son. I got two knucklehead sons. I got one good son, two knucklehead sons. These two knuckleheads. This knucklehead, he's very industrious. So he went out there and found him. He made some money, and he bought himself a car. Well, that was great, but he had no driver's license. Old enough to have a driver's license, but he didn't have one. Okay? So he says, Dad, I want you to license this car and put insurance on it so I can drive. I go, okay, I can do that for you. You're my son. I'll take care of you as soon as you get a driver's license. Okay. All right, Dad. Fine. Yeah, fine. Yeah, okay. So he goes out there and gets a learner's permit, comes back to me and says, I got a license. I go, dummy, that's not a license. That's a learner's permit. Now you got to go out there and learn to drive and get a license. You lied to me. You told me that when I got a license, you'd put... I said, wait. You don't have a license. You have a license to get a license. Well, he got so upset, he went back to his mom. His mom, under his duress, put the car in her name. Licensed the car, put insurance on the car, gave that boy the keys. He's driving the car around. Driving the car all over the place. Right? One day, somebody cuts that boy off on the road. He didn't like it. He drove the car, because he's a pretty good driver, too, for a kid with no license. Drove the car, follows the guy. He's a big guy like his father. Intimidates the guy. The guy's scared. He's in a suburban area, right? White kid, black kid rather, with dreads, big kid. Intimidating some white guy in a suburban area. In a BMW. Tinted out windows. And so he's doing whatever he's doing. This guy's calling the police. All of a sudden, here come the fire. Here come the popo. Bloop. Pull him over. Guess what? Dummy don't have no license. So they impound the car, take the car. Car is locked up somewhere. And the police are so dumb, they didn't even find that this dummy's got a gun in the car. They found a magazine, but they didn't even see the gun that the guy had in the car. So, me and the mother get the car out, throw that stuff away. We make sure that stuff is destroyed. That weapon was destroyed. Didn't even work with old rusty gun. I'm like, what was this boy really doing? And I looked at the mom and said to her, you know, this could have all been avoided if you just didn't license this car. Like, you didn't have to do this. Oh, well, you don't know the pressure I was under, and this, and you're not there, and it's him and me. I'm just like, wow, okay. These people. Okay. So I'm like, listen, it doesn't matter whether or not her or I were good parents. It didn't matter. The fact of the matter is they needed a mediator to step in. Another family, community resource that could step in, understand the situation on a professional level. That's what was needed. And this is what I'm trying to tell you. She became his friend. Yeah, mom, it was worse than that. Mom became his victim. Mom became his victim because anything he asked the mother to do, she would do. And to the detriment of herself. right? Me and the boy don't get along at all now because I got the car. I took the car. I sold it. I said, this car is the source of all your problems, right? Put the car in my name. I sold it. I got rid of it, right? You go deal with your court issues. Go get yourself a driver's license and fix yourself up, period. That's the best thing I could have done for him. The mom wanted to give him back the car. I said, I'm not giving it back to him. And the boy tried to victimize his mother. I had to go over there and deal with him physically again. So she wasn't his friend. She was his victim. And this is what I'm saying again. There could be opportunities, and I've seen this happen, where you're raising a monster in your house. You got this monster teenager in your house, single mom. The kid is bigger than you, stronger than you. Girl and boy now. Girl and boy. Could be a girl or a boy. Some of these girl children will fight you too. Some of these girl children will fight their mama. Let me tell you something. I'll keep my mouth shut on that one. But it doesn't matter. You might need somebody who just steps in and says, hey, this kid's beating you up. And has to do something that you can't do for yourself. Many of you need help with your teenager. And if you're honest, if many of you are honest, you'll say, yeah, boy, that kid was something else. That kid was this. That kid was that. I've got 6 of them. Let me tell you, giving me no trouble. 4. 3.5. 3.5 gave me no trouble. But the other ones, boy, I'm telling you, the other ones, I was marching up and down to those elementary school, high school. I knew from when they were little. I was like, oh, this one going to be my oldest daughter. I call her Dr. Brereton. She's no problem. Her brother, second boy, no problem. Those 2 in the middle, problems. My 16-year-old daughter, great in school, not great with her mom, and my little one is an angel. So like I said, 2.5. I had trouble with 2.5. It's a pretty good ratio, right? But I'm telling you, those 2, the 2 that I really had the really major problems with, if I would have had a resource person working with them, and they had some major issues. They had major problems, like major things going on with them. One of my boys has a legitimate beef. His mom kicked him out when he was 16 years old. I lived too far, so he didn't want to live with me. So he's living on his own with his friends. And he felt his whole life, my mom should not have kicked me out. She got remarried to a dude. The dude didn't want him in the house. She kicked him out, and he holds that to her. And she feels terrible for it. That's why she kept doing everything. She's overcompensating. Husband gone now, so you kicked out your son. I'm telling all my business. That's not really my business. It's their business. But you kick out your child for a man who you're not going to stay with. The little kid's on the street for years, and now you're overcompensating because you're guilty that you kicked out your son for a man that you're not even with, and the boy's angry at you. Yeah, come on. Does that need help? And the mom is not a dummy. The mom is an educated woman. Educated woman, knows better than this. She needed help. And it's got to the place where I'm not the help no more. That boy's a girl. He's an adult. It's too late. He's a grown man. So I tell him now. I say, hey, that's a grown man now. That's not a little boy. You missed the window of bending that tree. You missed the window. When you kicked him out, you missed the window. And so this is what I'm talking about. That you have stories like this. I'm not unique. There's stories like this all over the place. Scat Pack says, give us a quote. Okay. You gotta tell me where you're at, and I'll let you know. Because it's not expensive. All right. They only got to see your kids twice a month, and then there's virtual opportunities to talk to the child. These things are not expensive. They just have to be things that you have the right people doing it. They're not expensive. It's not an expensive resource. It's not. It's an hour every 2 weeks with your child. It's $120 an hour. That's what teenage mobile counseling charges, right? So essentially, it's $240 a month for your child. Plus, they get some mobile interaction that's more affordable if they need it. right? But the bottom line is, some of you need some intelligence on your kid. You're going to pay a lawyer $300 an hour if they get in trouble, sometimes $5 if it's a good lawyer. You're going to go to the dentist, you're going to pay that. You're going to go to the club and you're going to pop bottles. You're going to buy $200 tennis shoes and spend hundreds of dollars on the prom and all these other things for a kid that's broken. That's the problem. Okay, so you got a kid that will not stop smoking weed, right? This is where I bring in my nurse. And this is what we built a program for this. We got this from another African doctor, Kwame McKenzie from CAMH. Kwame McKenzie has a study of what weed does to the brain. Because a lot of these kids, first of all, they have bad information. And many of us, yeah, of course, we want an immediate fix. But some things you have to plant it in them like a seed, right? This is what you plant in them. That marijuana is essentially playing Russian roulette with your brain. Kwame McKenzie showed us a study from Sweden. Twins. They took twins. This is one of the studies. I think there was 67 studies. They took twins, identical twins. One twin smoked, and the other twin did not. The twin that smoked, his brain was literally damaged compared to the twin that didn't. Because marijuana touches and attaches and attacks the brain, right? So you can start speaking these things to kids. And guess what? They're going to do their own research with you. You're going to have a conversation with them. What type of weed do you smoke? Is it sativa? Okay, how does it make you feel? And then the harder parts about that in Toronto is that we've legalized it here, right? We've legalized certain things. We've legalized social ills in this particular country and in this particular city. So a child like that's dealing with weed, the second part is now you do a physical test with him. I have a good friend of mine, just hooked back up with him, Terry Carter. Terry Carter, my brother, when he was in college, Terry Carter smoked a little bit too much with the Brooklyn guys. My boy Glenn. You guys, they smoked a little bit too much. And Terry, he realized that the weed was affecting his physical strength. And it's a funny story I just mentioned to myself. And Terry tried to get back in shape in one day. Terry did like 200 ab crunches, jacked up his stomach. He might have got himself a mini hernia. The bottom line is that, using that story, is that weed, the smoking of marijuana, I have literally watched it physiologically make someone weaker. The other side of that, just to give people some context, when I was going through police academy, the kid that was the fastest runner, I was a pretty fast runner, but this white kid, fantastic runner, smoked cigarettes and weed all the time. Imagine going to police college and being the biggest weed head there. So, yes, some people are so athletic, the physiological detriment of smoking it can be overcompensated because they're such a great athlete. But in the long short of it, marijuana is not the long uses of marijuana is not healthy physiologically. It's not healthy for your brain. It's not healthy neurologically for extended uses. It's a medicine. And I don't deny it's a medicine. But if you're using it recreationally, well, that you're rolling the dice. Let's just put it that way. You're rolling the dice. Some people can handle it, some people can't. And some of you don't even know what the detriments are of it with the extended use. And yes, there's a lot of research on this. There's a lot of people that smoke marijuana, use marijuana. There's a lot of people that swear by marijuana. That's wonderful. I'm only talking about the studies. I'm not giving you my opinion. I don't touch the stuff. Myself, I've had a couple of bad interactions with it, and that's why I don't touch it. In fact, want to hear my marijuana story? Got to give me an offering for that. It's another time. That's a testimony. No, I'll tell you. My marijuana story is that when they legalized marijuana here, a friend of mine, when I came back from Africa, said, man, I need a distributor. Please see if you can get this into one of these big distilleries. Most of the distilleries are being run by policemen. White cops that used to put people in jail. So he gave me 3 pounds of marijuana. I was like, bro, I can't do nothing with this. I'm not one of these guys. So I had 3 pounds of marijuana, legal marijuana, sitting in my house. And I had it sitting in my house for months. And one day, I don't know what possessed me, I was making a pizza. Put a whole pizza in the oven. I said, man, I got this marijuana sitting up here. I wonder what this marijuana would do if I ate it. Don't. I sprinkled some of this marijuana, way too much, clearly, marijuana on the pizza. Right, this is my one marijuana snare. I sprinkled marijuana like parsley on the pizza, and I started to eat pizza. Man, about 15 minutes, I had so much energy, I did 200 push-ups. 200 push-ups. I was like, wow, I'm hungry again. I did 200 push-ups. I ate another couple of slices of that pizza. I almost ate half of the pizza. Then I got thirsty. I had some beer in the fridge. I drank 7 or 8 beers. Then all of a sudden, somebody outside just decided to turn the room upside down. I don't know who it was. I was holding on. The room was it was slanted. It wasn't spinning. It was slanted. And I couldn't walk properly. I was holding on because, I don't know, somebody upstairs just must have picked up the house and just put it on an angle. So I'm like holding on, trying to get back. I get to my room. I lay down in the bed, and a voice starts talking to me. The voice says, at your age, why are you smoking this type? I said, God, I'm sorry. I have no idea why I did this, Lord. Man, I think I projectile vomited about 4 or 5 times. I had the presence of mind to call a friend, because I worked the next day, and said, hey, man, I took some medication. I don't think I feel very well. Could you pick me up for work tomorrow? He picks me up for work the next day. Next day, my phone's ringing. People are calling me. They go, are you okay? I go, yeah, why? Man, you called us last night, man. You told us sorry for everything you've ever done and this, and you were talking all kind of stuff, man. I thought you were going to kill yourself. I'm like, what? I called 7 or 8 people on the telephone. Man, I think I was high for a week. For a week! I was high for a week. Okay? Absolutely will I never go near that stuff again. I didn't even smoke it. I just ate a pizza with it. No, thank you. Nope. That's my marijuana story. Okay? So you can't get me nowhere near that no more. I called that guy up. I said, man, you got to come get this stuff out of my house right now. You got to come get this stuff out of my house right now, bro. Right now. I don't know what the heck this been sitting up in here for this long for. So, yeah, that's my marijuana story. And it wasn't a good story, okay? It wasn't a good situation for me. So if your son is smoking marijuana on a consistent level, and we know that some people are predisposed to simply be addicted to stuff, and some people are predisposed to handle it. They can just essentially handle it. Like many of us can't handle certain things. Certain these kids, it's like nothing to them. They're like, oh, you're lightweight. They're laughing at me. You're lightweight, right? You can't handle that kind of stuff. Don't do that again, old time. You're old school, like maybe, but clearly, if he smokes marijuana a lot, he's got some type of resistance to it. He probably knows what to smoke. And some people get in that phase where they just feel good. Now, the marijuana distilleries here, they'll tell you exactly how it's going to make you feel. He's 24, and he's been doing it since he was 16. He's a pro. He's a pro, and and you know, a lot of these people say, oh, marijuana is not addictive. Yeah, right. Yeah, right. It's not. Then stop. Stop then. If it's not addicted, stop. They're addicted to how it makes them feel. Right? So even if it's not a drug that basically draws you back to it, they want to feel that way. They're chasing that feel, whether it's an up or a down, whatever it is, they're chasing that. They want that. That makes them feel a certain way. They need that. Right? I got a cousin like that, so I can't go nowhere with this man. This man will pull over the car and start burning his thing. I'm like, man, you don't see we're late already? You get all the way here and you start to burn your thing, man. He goes, man, I'm taking my time and so some of them, that's how they are, and I think for my cousin, I think it calms him down, but it is a medicine though. I won't discount that it's a medicine, but a medicine should be dispensed by a doctor, in my opinion. And I'll leave that at that. All right. I can always tell when he's broke, because you don't need marijuana for that. I'm in a bad mood when I'm broke too. That's a man thing. Okay. Absolutely. So anyway, that's an hour. I wanted to talk about this. I wanted to break this part down and let you guys know. I was supposed to be on my way to a place here. It took an hour and 21 minutes to get there. It took me an hour to drive, an hour here where I'm at. It took me. I'm about 15 minutes away from where I started from, and I started this video an hour ago because it's so much traffic. But I'm gonna leave this topic here. Teenage mobile counseling. It's delkbrereton@gmail.com. delkbrereton@gmail.com. Message me. Get to me on Instagram. The beacons on this page will get you to me, and we can have a consultation about that with one of our family teenage advocates. Okay? Love, peace, and hair grease. This is Del K. Brereton. I'm signing out. And look forward to talking to you guys about the altar. That's going to be Sabbath morning. The altar will be Sabbath morning, 10 o'clock. I'm going to have my special guest, Yvonne Gentles, will be teaching with me, the evangelist. So we'll be talking about that Saturday morning. Okay? Thank you, everybody, for participating and for being here and having this conversation with me. It's very important, I think. Our teenagers are what hopefully many of us are going to rely on in the future, and we need to make sure that we're producing the right stock of young people for our future. All right? Bless you, and I'll talk to you also.